Channel 2 News at 5.
This is...
We got hold of all the kids and met in the den and said a prayer and thanked the Lord that we all were well and not injured, and then we went out and tried to see what the neighbor's situation was.
I opened my front door and I went out maybe 10 feet, and here came a big piece of sheetrock in front of me. So I came back inside and I started looking out the window and I started looking at debris.
Beyond repair. I'm just remembering how it was and trying to figure out how this could ever happen. I mean, the roof is all over there, so.
They found me under the tables and things. They started hollering then. They went to help me get out. Then we couldn't find her, so then after a while, she come around to the front of the house and said she had to come back in by the cars to get back to us.
Good evening, I'm Lauren Terry. It was just before dawn this morning that residents of Franklin and Brentwood were awoken by a Christmas Eve nightmare. A devastating storm carrying a killer tornado touched down 8 times in Williamson County. Before the storm gave up and moved on, it had claimed 1 life, injured many more, and turned Christmas trees into splinters. The more heavily damaged areas were centered in Brentwood. The tornado touched down on Interstate 65 and Moores Lane, destroying businesses and wreaking havoc on the interstate. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was hit by the twister. On Mallory Station Road, a private airstrip was the target of the tornado. Several planes were destroyed. And Cook's Cable Television near General George Patton Drive was demolished. We have a series of reports tonight on the killer tornado, the destruction, the lives touched by the storm, and the livelihoods lost. We begin with Channel 2's David Dent, who retraces the destructive steps of this morning's storm.
The tornado hit before dawn, leaving a 20-mile path of destruction across Williamson County.
35 homes damaged, 19 homes destroyed, have 12 businesses destroyed, 4 businesses with major damage.
Ernest Rice was in this bed in his home at Great Box Lane when the tornado hit. The house collapsed on him. 8 of the 9 people inside escaped, but not Rice. He was killed.
One of the daughters came and said the house is gone and we can't find Daddy. And we grabbed blankets and ran out, and they had found Mr. Rice but we couldn't get him out. They couldn't get him out.
Officials say 6 people were injured in the tornado, which touched down at least 8 times. None of them were seriously injured. The twister showed no mercy to homes, businesses, or the Church of Latter-day Saints, which was also struck. James Deaton was driving on Interstate 65 in Franklin when the tornado touched down.
The car started flipping over, and as far as I can remember, it completely turned over once and then landed on in the medium.
Emergency workers spent the day cleaning up the debris and helping families left homeless. From the Brent Haven subdivision in Brentwood to Mallory Lane in Franklin, the tornado destroyed many families' plans for a Merry Christmas. In Williamson County, David Dent, Channel 2 News.
Disasters bring people together. Within hours of the tornado, neighbors offered victims food, clothing, shelter, even toys. Channel 2's Stuart Watson has the story of how one neighborhood in Brent Haven is pulling together.
Brenda Duncan's Sunday school class from the Brentwood Methodist Church met a day early on her back steps to help her pick up the pieces.
Does somebody want us to go ahead and put this in there?
It's hard. You look at everything you've had, it's gone.
But her 5-year-old, her 14-month-old, and her father are fine. You might not have thought so if you saw the bedrooms.
Bricks on the bed in the crib, so we were really lucky. And I just grabbed Chris out of bed. She's my little 5-year-old girl. She has leukemia. I grabbed her, and I got to the doorway, and I just covered her up and sat down on the doorway because I tried to get to the baby's bedroom. And I didn't think I had time, and then it stopped, and it was gone.
This afternoon, the destruction framed a blue sky, which gave no indication of the morning's storm. But the aftermath was apparent in the smell of a broken pine and the sounds and sights of rebuilding. Victims tried to tally the damage, tried to reach the insurance agent. But for all the destruction, some victims found reason for thanks.
All over, and we got hold of all the kids and met in the den and said a prayer and thank the Lord that we all were well and not injured, and then we went out and tried to see what the neighbor's situation was.
When he saw what the situation was, Bob Higgs even managed to joke, saying he was going to charge his neighbor for parking his motorhome.
Just picked it up and blew it over in a neighbor's yard, and that's really surprising since it weighs 12,000 pounds.
The tornado lifted off the ground after smashing these homes, sparing the houses across the street, but it left many reminders of just how close it came to hurting people.
My little girl was in bed. Her room literally exploded. Her bed is full of glass, shingles, lumber, and she didn't have a scratch on her. It's a miracle.
Bob calls it a Christmas miracle. Stuart Watson, Channel 2 News.
In the aftermath of this morning's disaster, hundreds are trying to pick up the pieces of what's left of their tiny community. As Channel 2's Terry Rowland reports, everyone from residents to business owners are trying to figure out what to do next.
Lawrence Mitchell is doing everything he can to salvage what's left of his medical supply company, but starting all over again will most likely be unavoidable.
Well, we tried to shut off the water, but the sprinkler system lines are broken, and so I can't shut it off, so it looks like everything's gone.
This morning's tornado touched down, leveling Mitchell's business along with a dozen others. Here, trees and vans were lifted from parking lots and hurled at least 100 yards through the air, landing in this open field with other debris. Mitchell estimates damage at about $5 million, but officials say this is only a small part of what they're calling a major disaster.
It looks like it came down right about on this side of these apartments and went straight down the railroad tracks. There's several buildings and some apartment damage, but as far as the total, we don't know just yet.
Downed power lines and gas leaks caused officials to block off several areas, keeping most residents out. Here at this private airport, federal aviation officials were assessing damage. Only one aircraft was left standing. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, part of a business complex met with total devastation. Ironically, these residents and businesses will not qualify for disaster relief funds.
It's primarily based on uninsured losses. Most of these areas are in the cities and such, so we expect them to be insured.
Authorities say it may take weeks for things to get back to normal. Officials will spend most of tonight and tomorrow just trying to determine the amount of damage. Terry Rowland, Channel 2 News in Franklin.
How did this freak storm happen, and why didn't anyone know it was coming? Mitzi Oxford joins us now to help put together the tragic questions here. Mitzi, was there any indication that a tornado was on its way?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, when I went on the air at 10 o'clock, we saw some thunder showers back in the Mississippi Valley, but you would never have known there was going to be any severe weather out of these storms, and a lot of times that's what we gauge by. We could track the history of a storm and tell kind of what it's going to do here. Of course, that's always subject to change. Let's go right to a view of the storm. As it passed through, we were seeing a long line of clouds. Now, this morning, this is exactly what the map looked like. We had a cold front stretching. We knew this was coming in, and because there was warm, moist air coming out of the Gulf and cool air coming in behind the front, we felt like there was a potential for thunder showers. And around 7 o'clock this morning, that's pretty much what we saw back in West Tennessee, heavy rain, thunder showers. Then around 7:30, the front moves a little bit further east, but not really that much. But that low is pretty much getting to be on top of us between, say, about 7:30 and about 8:30 this morning. And that's when we first started getting the reports of tornadoes touching down all around Davidson, Williams, and also some tornado warnings in Wilson County as well. And this really came out of the blue. The front had no impact at all when it was back in the Mississippi Valley. When it got right on top of us, I think it really got a strong surge of warm, moist air out of the Gulf, and that served as the trigger factor for severe weather. And by no means is this kind of thing typical for this time of year, obviously. We don't normally see tornadoes in December. However, there was a tornado that touched down in 1964 on Christmas Day at 10 o'clock that evening. And this is very unusual, but it just goes to show you that tornadoes, nothing about them is carved in stone. They can happen any time of the day, any time of the year.
Very fickle characters.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you. And Mitzi will be along later with the full forecast. But recapping our top story now, a killer tornado has ripped through Williamson County and parts of Davidson County, leaving one man dead, many more injured in its wake. One area hit hard, Brentwood, on the county line, including a private airstrip on Mallory Station Road. It'll be some time before the property damage toll is known. The human toll is more easily discernible on this Christmas Eve. What may not be so clear as you look at these pictures is that the experts say it could have been much worse. We'll be back in just a moment. A full load of propane